Welcome back. Welcome back. We decided to do a part two since we had such an engaging conversation
Yes, we did.
a short while ago. So we're going to welcome back Jayda and Imani, and we're going to talk about a few things similar but yet different than the last episode because we want to be purposeful. We want to be on purpose, on time, and of course, impactful.
Yes.
So I think we had a conversation about leading without titles,
Yeah.
I believe, right?
We did.
That's what that was. Okay. So now we're just, remember the target market is, technically like college students, early career hires,
Nice.
are young dreamers. But how do we turn dreams into actually implementing and doing? So I do have a question. The first question, how do we redesign? How do we redesign our career path from scratch or a pivot when things just don't go our way?
When I saw that question, it really resonated to me because that's exactly what happened to me. When I went to Seton Hall in 2015, I was there for their master's athletic training program. But in order to stay in the program, you have to have a 3.0 GPA. And this is the first time in my academic career that I had lower than a 3.0 GPA. So
That's
I had
you, really?
Yeah. I had to pivot out of that and then go into something else, do more social behavioral sciences, Africana studies, sociology, just to get a degree at the end of this all. But at the same time, I always knew I wanted to be Dr. Geis, which I was telling you before. But I was like, well, if I can't do athletic training and become a physical therapist, and where else can I be a doctor? So it wasn't until my senior year, right before graduation, that I was like, well, I want to go to grad school, but I'm not sure when I go, not sure I want to do. The basketball team offered me to come back, so it was more like, just find a degree that is, suitable to their travel schedule. Just get the degree to just get the degree. But then I said, that's not the path that I want to take. I really want to get a degree, something I'm very passionate about. So I emailed a bunch of the program directors for the different master's program at Seton Hall. That was the MBA, that was the the Master's in Health Administration, and then there was a Master's in Psychological Studies with a concentration in sports psychology. So that's when I emailed her, we sat down, had a conversation, and then that's when my career for sports psych took off. So just having that, senior year depressed, not sure what I was gonna do after I graduated, and having a simple conversation is what kind of took off my path of becoming a sports psychologist. Not there yet, but I've done everything I did everything I could to get to where I am now. So I think that's my perfect example of where I had to kind of pivot my career path, where I went to Seton Hall for one thing, and now I'm leaving with a whole different degree. Still within the realm of sports, still within the realm of helping people, but just not the medical side. Now it's the emotional and psychological side.
Okay, which is still well needed. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
And I like that sort of pivot piece because that's very much what my example relays on too.
Nice.
So for me, having gone to Penn and a school that has such a reputation for going into financial services and banking, I was sort of just going with the flow in undergrad. I'm like, okay, I got in here. These are the classes I'm taking. This is what all my peers are doing. With such a strong school name, you could. It's very privileged, but almost walk in and get an interview. So I remember I was fortunate to get an interview at one of the top banks. Wasn't necessarily my passion, but I'm like, okay, this is what everyone is doing. I'll just do the same thing. I bombed that interview. That's something that was probably my first time ever being like, wow, I was underprepared, clearly not passionate about what I was talking about. Like, what am I going to do? Everyone at Penn spends their first summer in banking. Like, now I don't have that. What am I going to do? Okay. But when I look back now, 8 years later, I'm so thankful because that was really not what I wanted to do with my life. If I would have just gone with the flow and did what everyone else was doing just for the money or chasing the status, I would have been so unhappy. So not getting that internship and sort of being forced out of the mainstream and having to be a little bit more intentional and go out and find an opportunity that I was excited about helped me find a career path that I actually wanted to be on. So rather than that summer going and doing banking, I found and stumbled upon my current company that was sort of in the same sector, but more on the technology side. Okay. Didn't have, sort of that same hustle and grind and burnout culture, but it was a lot more sustainable and just a much better fit for me. So sometimes I'm very thankful and really view that sort of bomb and horrible interview performance as a pivot opportunity and really intentional redirect to find something that I was actually passionate about. And so I've kept that with me as I navigate my career of you don't have to do what everyone else is doing, even if it's sort of the easy path that if you don't be intentional, that you'll just flow somewhere well. Like you'll be much happier and more fulfilled if you intentionally make your own pivot.
Very true.
Well, speaking of that then, because obviously I've had a few pivots in the course of time, sharing with some of our viewers, what are some, as we dive into maybe some practical ways to have a purpose-driven career?
I think for me, it's sort of being forward-looking and looking at others that are living a life and doing work that you value and you think you'd want to emulate. So I think when having conversations with those kinds of people, you get perspective of what it actually entails so that you can make an informed decision if you really want to go in that path. And I think in terms of identifying that purpose, it's doing a lot of the reflection work and doing sort of that alone time with yourself. I think like what the challenge was for me was that I was always in these high achieving spaces, so doing what everyone else was doing was getting me to a good place. Yes, it was a good place, but it wasn't the good, right place for myself. So it wasn't until I intentionally set time for self-reflection and thinking about, okay, how do I want to be spending my days? What kind of work do I want to be doing? How do I want to feel about myself at work? It wasn't until I did that that I was able to find and think about a career path that would, allow me to do that and think about who I was actually being.
Yes. And to piggyback up on Imani, I think self-reflection is a big thing. Just sitting down and kind of writing down what you're passionate about, writing down your non-negotiables, things you don't want to do. So if you don't want to work on weekends, don't want to work on holidays, if you're not a morning person or you're not a night person, just kind of writing those things down so going into certain things that, hey, I want to do this, but I don't want to do that. So you're more comfortable with actually negotiating properly. I also think another thing that a lot of us should use more is vocational tools. So a lot of assessments that are out there that are free for you to look on and see what type of personality you have, what type of jobs are more fitting for your personality, and also your kind of lifestyle type. So a lot of people want to go in and make fast money, but they don't realize what comes with fast money.
Right.
There's other ways for you to make fast money in a sense that also follow your passion and your dream. So let's say you want to go on social media and start content creating. Everybody's content creating about all the same things, lifestyle, this, and this. When you can do the same thing, but let's say pivot in a different direction and do something you're more passionate about and do things that way. So I think, again, self-reflection and also just utilizing tools such as vocational assessments, whether that's the MMPI, I'm sorry, naming certain things, but just certain things that can be utilized to see what type of personality you have and what job types fit your personality and also what job types don't fit your personality.
You know what? I hear you. I do. And I know I always slip this in because I am more seasoned. How do you guys navigate that the whole idea of these practical moves when you have multi-generations in these workspaces? Because I'm actually on the border. Find a job, work 20, 30 years, retire, da-da-da. Younger generation now, they're all about boundaries.
Yeah.
How do they navigate it?
I think it's hard, but I think it's what Imani said earlier, knowing your value. Not letting a company or not letting a person kind of just run you over and burn you out, because you'll get replaced tomorrow. So I think it's knowing your value, knowing what you can take and what you can't take. And I do think we learn a lot from the older generation. It's kind of just, sticking through it to see what can happen. But then once your boundaries start getting, trampled over, or once your values are being dismissed, then I think that's not the environment for you to grow into the person that you want to grow into. It's all going to keep you stagnant. It's only going to keep you very sheltered or just very where you are now. And if you want to grow, you're going to have to get out of that environment to go to a place where your boundaries are respected to a certain extent. To a certain extent, a lot of us don't want to work on weekends. We don't want to do a lot of things. But at the same extent, we understand that there's other things for example, as a psychologist in training, I don't get paid for my clinical hours. So for us, the generation now, we're advocating to get paid for our clinical hours and actually make money off of this instead of waiting to become licensed. So that's a lot of advocacy work. If you hear a lot of older adults, they'll say, well, I did it, so why can't you do it? And well, it's like, well, back then the cost of living was this, and now the cost of living is that. So, and also you should have advocated for yourself to get paid for the work that you do, because you are making an impact on your clients as well, and you are putting in the same amount of work, if not more, than therapists are actually getting paid for. So it's a very hard thing to do, but I think for our generation, we understand our value, and we're not going to allow kind of just tradition to just take over. It's okay to kind of revamp the system while still keeping the same kind of values and systems that the company has, but also respecting who we are as individuals, so that we can actually produce the work that they want us to produce.
Okay, so it is feasible.
Yes.
It is feasible to respect your boundaries, but still stay in line with the core mission and the vision of said company organization.
Yeah.
And still be able to be productive.
Yes.
Okay.
What I wanted to add in there was viewing the company as a resource just in the same way that they view you. So you kind of touched on it earlier. Whatever space you're in, be it a school or a company, making sure that you're getting the value and the opportunities out of it, because you're lending your brain power, your time, your energy to their goals. How are you then getting their support, the network of of your coworkers, the resources and connections that the company or university has to help further your goals? So I think that was sort of, for me, a mindset shift of, okay, is whether this job that I'm in now is my end all be all, how can I make sure that the time and energy that I'm spending here is still an investment in my, end goal?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How do you guys define and share success and fulfillment today?
My favorite quote is by Vince Lombardi, and it's, the only place success comes before work is in a dictionary. So I feel like we all have our different definitions of success, but I feel like I define success as for me, it's just elevating from where I was before to the next path. So it doesn't mean I have to, be some big shot sports psychologist at the end of my life, but as long as I've completed the goals that I've set for myself, I feel like I am successful. I may not be successful in the eyes of others, but for myself, that's how I define success. It's when I'm able to accomplish a goal and move on to the next one, which will elevate my life and elevate my status or my earnings or whatever it may be. But that's how I would define success for myself and for others.
And for me, it's very much along the same lines in terms of making it a little bit more personal, the definition of success. I think, many folks as high achievers, us here on the panel, those watching, there is that like the world's definition of success. But I find myself now 6 years into my career, a little bit less attached to that world's definition and more attached to, okay, what would make me feel good at the end of my career, at the end of my life, looking back at what I've achieved, and being a little bit more intentional about those milestones that I put in place to get there. I think for me, success is really about how much ownership I have over my time and what I get to work on. Am I getting to work on things that I'm passionate about, feeling like I, have the ownership and ability to sort of pivot what I'm doing and flex to always be chasing what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about. So I think, my ideal of success is that I own my time, I'm working towards my own dream, full time versus someone else's.
Okay. I have a curveball, since you want to bring up Vince Lombardi. Yes, I know that's football, but I still have a curveball.
Yes, sir.
Question. We are cognizant, we are definitely aware of what's going on around us, right? And there is an intentional movement. However, as you guys are navigating your career now, you're sharing information with those that are coming after you. How are you intentional with making sure that the key word of accessibility is apparent?
So I think for me, in terms of growth and how I define it, it's always marked and closely tied to how easy I make it for those that come behind me. So to your point about accessibility, I know what hurdles I had to climb. I feel like I've achieved success or I've done a good job if I can remove at least one of those hurdles from those behind me. So I talked a little bit earlier about sort of sharing the tips and tricks, the stuff that folks don't say out loud, with those behind me so that they don't have to learn it the hard way. I remember sort of a piece of hard feedback that I got at work, just in terms about like looking and being visibly more present. So I had been in a time and space where I had a lot going on personally, took like the work approved time off and leave, but was still sort of getting these side whispers and these things of like, oh, where's Imani? Why is this work going on? I had a very reasonably company approved reason to not be there, but these conversations were going on. And luckily I had a trusted mentor that could give me that feedback of like, yes, take the bereavement, heal, get back into good space. But unfortunately in the work world, people will talk. It does affect your perception. So when I now, a few years later, had someone more junior on my team go through a similar thing in the family, I did, have to give her that, honest feedback of like, take the time, obviously heal, but this is, a reality of the workplace. So make sure you've either do these things proactively so that your work streams can keep moving, or so that, things will be okay when you come back. So I feel like for me, I very much mark my success and my ability to achieve things in terms of how much I make it easier and help those coming behind me.
Ditto. Ditto.
Okay.
It's funny, I was just sharing, I had to take a comprehensive exam, and I just shared my Quizlet with some of my some of the classmates that are younger than me, so that when it's time for them to take it, they're a little bit more prepared. And the people before me have done that for me as well. So I feel like, at least in my program, accessibility is like our big key for us, that we share information that we went through with the younger cohort, so that they don't have to go through the same thing we went through. I wrote down a list of things that you should have this done, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, so that when you're at my stage in the program, you're not like stressed for 3 months trying to get everything ready for applications and things like that. So I feel like accessibility is something I like to do, because I don't want to make it harder. I don't feel like being like, oh, I don't want anybody else to get a PhD after me. Like, I feel like that's very selfish,
Right.
and no one wants to be on an island by themselves. If anything, I would love for everybody to have one. It's not easy, but I would love to get the tips and the tricks so that it's more accessible for people, especially women of color, Black women especially, so that we can actually have the opportunity to get in those spaces and to acquire those degrees, and then be proud about it, and then again give more back to those that are before us and even older than us. There are women who are older than me trying to pursue their PhD and coming to me for advice, like, how did you do it? Where did you go? What were your applications like? This and that. So it's not just people who are younger than you. You can actually be a catalyst to somebody older than you and give them advice to how to get to where they want to go, just by the way that you carried yourself doing what you do.
Awesome.
Because I know I've inspired you.
Absolutely.
I was inspired. I'm like thinking of apps.
Well, let me know if you need help.
So, as it relates to feedback, it was touched on a little earlier, as well as I think an earlier episode. And this is coming from my perspective. Do you think those that come after, way after me, are open-minded to constructive criticism?
Yes and no. I think it's the way it's said and the way it's presented is how somebody will perceive constructive criticism. I've had constructive criticism given to me by one supervisor that was it just threw me off. Like, it was it wasn't in a good tone. The timing that it was presented, the way it was presented, I couldn't accept it as constructive feedback. I took it very personal. Versus my next supervisor said the same exact thing, but not saying she had a column or anything, but the way she presented it was something that I could receive better, and then I could use that feedback to better myself. So I think you can give somebody constructive feedback, but you have to realize how you give it and the delivery that you give it in is how they'll perceive it, versus if they perceive it personally, or they'll perceive it as something that they can just work better on. Because if you tell me that I ain't whatever in a very rude tone, I'm taking it personal, I'm not gonna listen to you no more. But if you say, Jayda, I like what you're doing, but I think you could do this better. I think you could push a little bit harder here. I think you could speak up in certain areas. And I'd say, okay, I understand that. And then I could come back, reflect on it, like we said earlier, and then execute what needs to be done.
Did that occur like in an evaluation process or one-on-one or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had to evaluate ourselves.
Okay.
So it was more of a sense that she told me some things, and I was like, no, you could work on those too. But I couldn't say that because she was in a higher position than I was. But then when I moved on to my next supervisor, it was the same thing, evaluation period, mid-year evaluations. And she said some things, and I was like, you know what? You're right. I could speak up more during group discussions. I could concise my therapy notes a bit more. I do tend to yap a lot in my therapy notes. But the way she broke it down to me was a lot more receptive to me. So I think you also have to know the person that you're talking to and how to give that advice to them so they can actually receive it properly and not kind of just, let it go over their head and they're like, oh, I could care less what you have to say.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think for me, I had to view feedback as something super valuable, and that, especially in sort of more informal channels, that people were going out of the way to tell me because they want to help you. Because you could keep going on doing those behaviors that, folks are viewing negatively, and if they don't give you the feedback and don't tell you, you're not going to change and grow. So it's never a great experience to hear something that, other people think you need to work on or that you aren't doing your best. But if you just have that sort of mindset shift that, they're telling you this because they want you to work on it, they want to see you at your best, then you'll be more receptive to it and able to implement said feedback and get to a better place. And I think for younger generations, whether they like to hear it or want to hear it, it's a part of the reality. There are formal performance reviews in any company. And then there's also, and you should hope to get to a space where you have other trusted folks that can come and give you feedback before then. You don't want to make a mistake all year long and don't hear about it until your performance review. Yeah. You would want and hope that you have, a trusted mentor, a peer, someone you respect that would come to you and help you make a change and, corrective action ahead of them.
True.
Awesome. I want to go back. A little bit, though. As you can see, I like going back. What could you share with, because Jayda, sooner or later, you're going to be, really, once you're achieved your goal, right, you're going to be, you'll probably be like a consultant or something like that. But nonetheless, an early career hire that's on that job search and all that, what type of questions would you share with them that they could ask before they feel they're about to make the decision on accepting an offer?
Mm-hmm. My favorite question to ask job application, I say, well, what can you do for me that the other sites can't? Like, I told you what I want to do with my life. I told you where I want to go. I told you my passions, my areas of growth, my areas of weakness. Now that you know that, what can you do for me to help me get to where I want to go? So sometimes I put that question on. It's like they ask me, well, what can you bring to the table? I ask them, well, what can you bring to me to make me feel secure enough to say yes to your offer? To know that I can become the person that I want to become, not fully there, but at least start there and then grow from there. So that's one of my favorite questions to ask during interviews. Is like, well, now you know my story. How are you going to benefit me in all this? Besides, of course, a paycheck. What can you do for me? So I try to kind of give them that question to ponder on.
Okay. All right.
I like that, building on sort of that same theme of you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So when they ask you have any questions for me, that's your time to shine, and you've got to do the obligatory, question that shows you researched the company. But you also need to do that question that, gets at, is this place going to align with your core values? So I think for me, I always like to see, why is the role open? Are you a toxic manager and you drove the last candidate away? Or are you a great developmental focus manager and this person, got a promotion or went on to, school to go further their career? So that to me is always something that I'm like, okay, why is this open? For probably a more like college hire or entry level position, that sort of question could be reframed a little bit in terms of, okay, what resources are there at this organization or company to help me further my own goals? Definitely want to see like how much they're willing to invest in you as a person and not just as an employee.
Definitely some awesome responses, because personally speaking, I've been in situations where I've always tried to ask, what happened to the person that was in the role prior to my arrival? And in some instances, I see why they are no longer, and they weren't promoted. Let's just say they moved on, and I understand why. So it's a very important question. So as you guys are navigating, what type of legacy do you see you guys leaving or establishing? I ask that because at the end of the day, there's going to be someone that comes after you and says, I want to be like them.
I think for me, when I think about like what kind of legacy I'm intentionally trying to set, because there's a legacy that you can sort of intentionally be thinking about and curating, but there's also a legacy that's just happening based on, you know, how you interact with others. But if I think about my intentional one, I want to be known as a connector. I very much like basically using my network to help and aid others. So if I think about, in like a work example, I've been at my company 6, I had done 2 internships, so almost 8 years. I've got a decent network in terms of folks all across the organization. I like, and I try and go out of my way and add this value that if someone asks a question, I either know a person or a team that can help us answer that question, or I can connect us with someone that'll get an answer a little bit faster than just throwing it into the void. So I really like my legacy to be that I'm sort of a person that helps connect the dots. And then when I think about helping people, that same thing of I've got a pretty good network of folks across different industries, different organizations, different affiliations, that if I know that someone's passionate in an area, I want to be able to be the one that connects and knows of this opportunity, knows of someone great for them to talk to, and I'm always sort of connecting my mentors with other potential mentees, my mentees with other folks to share learnings, because I think that's what I've benefited from, that's how I've gotten to where I am, and I want to make sure that my legacy is doing that same thing and being that same connector that I benefit from.
Okay.
Nice. I think to keep it to a one-word theme, my word would be destigmatize. Take away the stigma of a lot of things that are placed on people or stereotypes, or, for example, like we said, student athletes have a stigma of not seeing psychologists because it's seen as weak or seen as taboo. In the Black community, a lot of us don't go to therapists because we're supposed to take it up to God, or you're supposed to kind of just brush your problems away.
Pray about it.
Yes, so pray it away.
Yeah, pray it away.
And I want to work on destigmatizing that. I want to work on us actually utilizing the resources that God has placed on this earth for us, and not just kind of trying to just absorb it all because we're supposed to be strong, resilient people. Strong, resilient people also seek out help. So I want to make sure that my legacy is introducing new things to people who before, I'm going to be frank when they say like, oh, that's white people stuff. Like, oh, white people do this, or you talk so eloquently, you this and this, and I want to kind of destigmatize that. If you do see an educated Black woman, that she's not an Oreo, or she's not talking proper, she's just being her authentic self. So I want to take a lot of stigmas that are negative, especially within the Black community, and kind of turn it around and show them that no, we are so much more than a stereotype that have been placed on us for hundreds of years. And I feel like we're still stuck in those stereotypes that have been debunked decades ago. So a lot of just destigmatizing of certain things within our community and also within our society. So that's the legacy I want to leave. Not only in Greenburgh, but again, within society. Greenburgh's going to be my starting hub. Greenburgh and Newark are my starting hub.
Okay.
But I do want to have a more lasting legacy within, especially college counseling centers throughout the country.
Awesome. So, tying into legacy, being intentional with making room for community, joy, happiness, self-care, in communicating with early career hires, hell, even mid-career professionals. How important is self-care?
Too important.
Yeah.
You will burn out.
No, really?
Yeah. Not only just psychologically, but also physically. It's not good for the body, it's not good for the mind, it's not good for the soul. So it's something I had to start taking initiative to do. And self-care does not mean you have to put money towards something. Self-care can just be 10 minutes of silence, you know, a 20-minute bath, or like a longer shower, have a concert in the shower. But just taking time to do things that actually bring you joy, that actually increase your dopamine, or the hormones within your body that make you feel like those feel-good hormones. So just doing things of that sort. And for me in my program, I make sure that I at least go out 3 times a month with my friends. So I'm not just cooped up in the house. So I set a standard for myself. We were just talking about the fact that I moved my massage to tomorrow instead of today. But that's
Appreciate you.
No problem. That's an example of self-care, because in order for me to do what I want to do, in order for me to be accessible to others, for me to build my legacy, for me to help the next person forward, I need to make sure I take care of myself. I come first, and then everybody else comes second, because if I'm not 100%, I can't give 100% to anybody else.
That's fair.
I echo that exact same sentiment. You can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're giving to your different clubs, organizations, work, and you don't have anything for yourself, you're not going to be able to turn around and do that the next week.
Yeah.
So I think for me, as a working professional, I try not to let work be the hardest thing I'm doing that day. So whether that's getting up and hitting a workout, you know, challenging myself in some other way, either through like an activity or making sure that I'm intentionally doing something else, so that, you know, work isn't the hardest thing. It's not what's going to be sitting and weighing on my mind all night. And then also, to your point, making sure that you set that time just for rest and for reflection, quieting some of the noise of the world so that you can really connect with who you are. I had a really trusted mentor share something that was super impactful and helped shift my way of thinking. We sort of got on the phone. It was supposed to be a career-oriented question. And rather than asking, like, what do you want to do? She asked, who do you want to be? Imani, you're a human being. All you need to do is be. Who do you want to be? And that was like a complete mind shift. Like, I was getting ready. I'm like, all right, I'm going to apply to these grad schools. I'm going to take the GMAT this day. And she's like, I don't care about any of that. Who do you want to be? Yeah. What makes you happy? What are you doing when you are being and being happy? And how do we talk and break that down? So I think when I think of self-care, I think of how can I connect with myself and just, you know, being alive and being a human being.
Okay, all right. So, I'm about to mess with you. You already know. As we process, you know, we are programmed a certain way. That's just our reality. So, as we look at everything that we spoke about within this episode, as well as the last one, the part 1, how do you share with those that are coming after us? How do we package it in a way that it puts us on this trajectory of our career?
I think something that I've been noticing as a trend in the corporate world is, you know, this whole narrative of bring your whole self to work, being more authentic. So I do think there is a little bit of an organic shift that enables what you talked about. So sharing that full package of, you know, thinking about your career, not just at the times that you're in the office, but what are you doing outside of the office? How are you taking care of yourself to show up as, you know, a person and an employee? So I think some of that helps, and something that I do, I'd say like more tangibly, is anytime that I'm on a panel or asked to speak to someone, I'll share the work examples, I'll share the life lessons, but also share something personal that like humanizes me, that speaks to that aspect of taking care of myself as I show up at work. Just so that, you know, it's a little bit more normalized that, you know, this is part of you. You don't just exist 9 to 5. You're a person, and, you know, you're a person who's coming to work to do good work, to get things out of work, but you're also, you know, existing outside of that. So I think the more that we can show up and share that narrative in different spaces and with folks that are early in career, they'll come in with that sort of holistic picture.
Yes, I agree, especially the last part where you said we're just like the personal touch of it. I feel like we see a lot of successful people in the world and we think they just got it like that. Like they didn't go through anything and it's just was easy peasy lemon squeezy. Or we look at some of our leaders like MLK or, you know, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and we just look at them and but then we hear about certain things that they had to go through, or even things that they're not as proud about. But that makes them more human and lets them know that, well, I've gone through some things in my life and I'm not perfect, but I can still do what I want to do or still get to where I want to go. So I think adding that humanistic part to a lot of the conversations and not just saying, oh, you know, I got my PhD, I have a 3.8 GPA, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But saying, no, I've had a lot of sleepless nights, I've cried a lot, I see a therapist regularly now, you know, I'm doing the stuff that I need to do to make sure that I can get to where I want to go. So I think, again, adding that human part and being more honest about how you got to where you got will let people see that this is actually more attainable than I thought it was, and not thinking it's more of a dream in the distance is actually more obtainable.
I definitely feel you. I will say this, from a professional and personal, right? There's a old spiritual. Look, I'm so glad I don't look like what I've been through.
Amen.
You know, and as I look back over this life, and I'm sitting there like, wow, there were some things, yeah, I could have done better, clearly. But one of the things that I know and that we all should embrace, that every time you get knocked down, it's important that you get right back up. I mean, that is so critical. So I've been knocked down a few times, but I'm stubborn. I'm hard-headed. I continue to get back up because I know that there is still a purpose, and that's literally how we came to this right here. You know, so I have an assignment.
Let's hear it.
I like messing with Jayda. It's just like it's like seeing my little sister here now is just like wow. Think about 3 words. 3 words that pretty much gives us the whole concept of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to leave, what your legacy is that you can share and really instill with those that come after you.
I can go.
Go ahead.
So, my first name being I, and I love a theme, so I'm going to do I words. So I'm going to say impact, intention, and imagine. I think I don't dream enough, and so that's something I'm really challenging myself to is, imagine. There's way more possibilities, there's way more career fields, there's way more just opportunity out there than you can even imagine. So I literally have on my calendar Tuesdays and Thursdays a half hour where the title of the invite is just dream. Like, close the work tabs, just sit and dream and think about what I want to do, where I want to be.
I like that.
That was great. I don't know if I'll follow up with that one.
I'm like, wow, okay.
I think my 3 words would be love. I think love definitely keeps me going. Love for what I do, love for who I am, love for my family, my friends, God, people, food, music, just love in general. Another thing is fun. I feel like a lot of us don't have enough fun in life. I feel like sometimes we're a little bit too serious in life, and we only have one life to live. So I try to make sure I do something fun every day, whether that's singing in the shower, whether that's calling my parents and cracking jokes with them. But I make sure I smile and I laugh every day, because without that, if you don't have any like laughter or happiness in your life, I feel like there's really for me, there's no purpose. I enjoy being happy. And I would say the last word would be it's gonna sound very cliche, but Yizer. Like, that's just who I am. Like, it's not a word in the dictionary, but like when I think about what it is, like just the legacy that the Yizer name has already left me.
Absolutely.
And to continue that legacy, like I want to be Dr. Yizer. I think there's 2 other Dr. Yizers, but not within my immediate family. So to be the first in my immediate family and to see all that they've accomplished, and just to continue the legacy of what they've started, and then to just start my own legacy after that. So love, fun, and Yizer.
I love it. Well, thank you. You two, amazing as always. Thank you for spending this time with me. And I would have to say to, you know, those that are viewing this, take notes, take notes. They have shared some amazing nuggets of wisdom, inspiring me as well. Yes, Jada.
Ken, there's something that I want to share that Imani and I were talking about earlier that I think is actually very important.
Go ahead.
Is to be proud of your accomplishments, to not minimize your accomplishments, to not feel as if because you have a degree or because you're this, this, and this that you can't be proud about it. We were talking about how as Black women we kind of have to dim our light a bit in order for others to shine, because then we'll be seen as bragging or a lot of these other negative connotations, when in actuality we're very proud of our work. So just to kind of celebrate your work, be proud of your accomplishments, and don't feel like just because you're in the room with people who may not be as accomplished as you are or even more accomplished that you can't share all your good work as well, and that you feel like you have to kind of just be quiet and hide in the limelight. So something I think that was very important that we shared, to just be very proud of your accomplishments, whether it's something as small as an associate's degree or, you know, being promoted to manager of whatever company it may be, to as big as getting a PhD or getting married, having kids, just being very proud of all that you accomplished in life.
Absolutely.
And not letting others kind of dim your light just because they don't have what you have or they have more than what you have.
Yeah, and honestly, as I sit back and just, you know, observe what's taking place, your light cannot be dimmed at all. So thank you for joining us yet again. You know the routine: like, comment, share, definitely subscribe. The movement is on, and it's happening. It's happening in real time. So thank you for another episode of Real Now Leaders, Right Now Leaders. I should know the name of the show, right?
You should.
Right Now Leaders? Yeah, okay. Thank you. God bless.